When Christopher met Monique, he believed he had found the missing piece of his life. They met at a jazz lounge in Atlanta, where the smooth sound of the saxophone filled the air like honey dripping from a comb. Christopher, tall with skin the color of roasted chestnuts, wore a navy suit that accentuated his broad shoulders. Monique, with her glowing cocoa-brown complexion and crown of coily curls, carried herself like a queen. Their eyes locked across the room, and it wasn't long before Christopher asked her for a dance. From that moment, their love story began, a love that blossomed with late-night phone calls, Sunday walks in the park, and endless laughter. But Christopher had no idea that the greatest test of his love would not come from life's hardships, but from Monique's mother. When Monique introduced Christopher to her family, she warned him, "My mama don't play, Chris. She's strong-willed and protective. But once she likes you, she'll ride with you for life." Christopher smiled. "Baby, I can handle your mama. I respect strong women." The family dinner was set in their home in Decatur. The table was lined with collard greens, fried chicken, mac and cheese, and cornbread. Monique's mother, Patricia, sat at the head of the table like a queen surveying her kingdom. She gave Christopher a cold stare before saying, "So you the man who think he good enough for my daughter?" Christopher swallowed hard but answered respectfully, "Yes, ma'am. I believe I am." Patricia smirked, unconvinced. Over the months, Patricia made it her mission to scrutinize Christopher. Every move he made, every word he spoke, was measured against her expectations. If he complimented Monique, Patricia would say, "Words are cheap. Actions matter." If he brought gifts, she would remark, "Buying love don't mean you know how to keep it." Monique tried to mediate, but Patricia's disapproval grew heavier with time. Despite Patricia's doubts, Christopher proposed to Monique one sunny afternoon in Piedmont Park. He went down on one knee with a sparkling diamond ring, and Monique cried tears of joy as she said, "Yes." Their friends celebrated, and plans for the wedding began immediately. But when Patricia heard the news, she sighed deeply and said, "I knew this day was coming, but that boy too stubborn. Mark my words, Monique, he gonna give you trouble." The wedding planning brought out the worst tensions. Monique wanted a grand celebration. Christopher wanted something modest. Patricia inserted herself into every discussion. "Y'all need to listen to me," she said one evening. "This wedding gotta reflect respect for our family name." Christopher calmly replied, "With all due respect, Miss Patricia, this wedding is about Monique and me. We'll make the decisions." That single statement was the spark that ignited Patricia's fury. One Saturday evening, Patricia invited Christopher over to her house. Monique wasn't there. "Sit down," she commanded. Christopher sat, his heart pounding. Patricia leaned forward, eyes blazing. "You too stubborn, Christopher. A man like you won't last in my daughter's life. You think you can tell me off in my own house? You think you can run things?" "I respect you," Christopher said softly. "But I have to lead my household, and Monique and I will make decisions together. That's what marriage is about." Patricia slammed her hand on the table. "Not if I have anything to say about it. You will not marry my daughter." Patricia called Monique later that night. "Baby, you need to break it off with that man. He's too stubborn, too proud. Marriage with him will bring you nothing but heartache." Monique cried, torn between her mother's voice and her heart's desire. "Mama, I love him. Why can't you see that?" "Because love ain't enough," Patricia snapped. "If you marry him, don't expect me to be part of your life anymore." As the wedding date drew closer, Patricia's influence weighed heavily on Monique. The arguments between her and Christopher became frequent. Finally, a week before the ceremony, Patricia made her final move. She called the wedding planner, canceled all the reservations, and told the church that the wedding was off. When Christopher arrived to find Monique in tears, she whispered, "Mama cut off the wedding. She says I have to choose." Christopher's heart shattered. Monique stood at a crossroads. On one side was the man she loved, and on the other was the mother who had raised her. Patricia's stubbornness was mirrored in Monique's own heart, making the decision even more painful. "Chris," she said, trembling, "I don't know what to do." Christopher held her hands. "Baby, you don't have to choose me over your family. But if your mama keeps controlling you, we'll never have peace." The wedding never happened. Invitations were recalled, guests were informed, and the dream Christopher and Monique once held slipped away like smoke in the wind. Monique remained with her mother, unable to break free from Patricia's grip. Christopher moved away, carrying with him the scars of a love that almost was. Years later, Monique would look back and wonder what life might have been if she had chosen differently. Patricia stood firm in her belief, but deep inside, she knew she had stolen her daughter's chance at happiness. And Christopher, though he built a new life elsewhere, never forgot the woman he once loved and the wedding that never was. After the wedding was cancelled, Monique and Christopher stopped speaking for weeks. Monique buried herself in work, while Christopher avoided places where he might run into her. The silence was deafening, but the love they once shared still lived in their hearts like a faint ember refusing to die. Patricia, on the other hand, felt victorious. She told her friends at church, "I saved my daughter from a stubborn man who would have ruined her life." They nodded, though some secretly believed Patricia had gone too far. The cancellation of the wedding spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Aunties whispered during Sunday service, cousins sent text messages filled with gossip, and friends speculated about what really happened. "Word is, Monique's mama canceled everything," one woman said in the beauty salon. Another replied, "That's control, plain and simple. That girl's grown. She should have stood her ground." Monique began to feel ashamed, not because she still loved Christopher, but because the whole world seemed to know her business. One afternoon, Monique walked into a bookstore downtown, and there he was, Christopher, browsing the history section. Their eyes met, and time froze. "Hey," Christopher said softly. "Hey," Monique whispered. They sat in the cafe corner, sipping coffee, both struggling to find words. Finally, Christopher said, "I never stopped loving you. But I can't fight your mama every day. That's not marriage, that's war." Monique's eyes filled with tears. "I know. I feel trapped between you and her." When Patricia found out Monique had seen Christopher, she grew furious. "Are you trying to go against me, Monique? After all I've done for you, after raising you, feeding you, making sure you had the best in life, you still want to run back to that man?" Monique clenched her fists. "Mama, I'm not a little girl anymore. I have the right to love who I want." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "As long as you live under my roof, you will respect my word." That night, Monique packed her bags. She moved into a small apartment across town, determined to live life on her own terms. It was the hardest decision she had ever made, leaving behind her mother's house. Christopher helped her settle in, bringing over boxes and fixing up her place. For the first time, Monique felt a taste of freedom. But Patricia didn't call, didn't visit, and didn't forgive. Christopher and Monique started fresh. They didn't rush into another engagement, but they began to build their lives together. They took long walks in the evenings, cooked dinner in her tiny kitchen, and dreamed about what the future could be. Still, in the back of their minds, Patricia's shadow loomed. Months passed, and Patricia began to feel the weight of her decisions. The house grew quiet without Monique's laughter echoing through it. Though she pretended to be strong, loneliness crept in. One evening, she looked at Monique's empty room and whispered, "Maybe I was too hard." But pride kept her from picking up the phone. Thanksgiving arrived, and Monique had to decide where to spend it. Christopher's family invited her warmly, while Patricia left a message saying, "Dinner is at 5. If you care to come." Monique chose to go to Christopher's family. His mother hugged her and said, "Baby, we don't care about the past. You're family here." Monique felt both love and guilt, knowing her own mother sat alone across town. The community noticed the distance between Monique and Patricia. Aunt Loretta, Patricia's older sister, decided to step in. "Patricia, you can't keep pushing that girl away," she told her. "She's grown. You gotta let her live her life. Don't let stubbornness rob you of your daughter." Patricia brushed her off, but the words lingered in her heart. Late at night, Patricia sat at her desk and wrote a letter to Monique. "Daughter, I know I've been hard on you. I only wanted the best, but maybe I hurt you in the process. I'm proud of you. I love you." She folded the letter but never mailed it. Pride, once again, won the battle. As time went on, Christopher and Monique began to argue, not about love, but about the stress of Patricia's absence. "You can't keep worrying about whether your mama approves," Christopher said one night. "We need to live our lives." Monique snapped back. "She's still my mother, Chris. You don't understand." Their voices rose, and for a moment, it felt like Patricia's shadow was tearing them apart again. One winter morning, Monique received a call. Patricia had collapsed at church and was rushed to the hospital. Monique raced to her side, tears streaming down her face. Christopher came with her, despite the tension. When Patricia opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Christopher holding Monique's hand. For once, she didn't speak. She just stared at them, realizing how much time had been wasted. During Patricia's recovery, Monique visited every day. Sometimes Christopher joined, sitting quietly. One afternoon, Patricia whispered, "Christopher, I may not like how stubborn you are, but I can't deny you love my daughter. Maybe I was wrong." It was the first olive branch she had ever extended. Patricia wasn't ready to apologize fully, but she started softening. She allowed Christopher to help around the house once she was discharged. He fixed her porch steps, brought groceries, and drove her to appointments. The community noticed. "Maybe he's not such a bad man after all," the church ladies said. For the first time, Patricia began to see Christopher not as an enemy, but as a man who truly cared. One evening, after dinner at Monique's apartment, Christopher took her hand. "Baby, we've been through the fire. Your mama tried to break us apart, but we're still here. I don't want another canceled wedding hanging over us. When the time is right, I want us to try again, only this time, we do it our way." Monique's heart swelled with hope. She kissed him softly and whispered, "Yes, but this time, no one cuts us off. Not even Mama." And for the first time in years, they began to dream again of a wedding, not one controlled by fear, but by love. After Patricia's health scare, the tension in the family began to shift. Monique noticed her mother wasn't as quick to criticize anymore. Instead, Patricia often sat quietly, observing, as if she were reconsidering the choices she had made. One Sunday afternoon, while Christopher was helping fix her back fence, Patricia spoke softly. "You really do stick around, don't you?" Christopher smiled. "I don't give up easy, Miss Patricia, especially not on people I love." It was the first time Patricia's lips curved into the smallest smile since she had met him. That night, Patricia sat by her window, watching the moonlight spill across the yard. She remembered her own younger years, how her own mother had once disapproved of the man she loved. "I became the very thing I hated," she whispered to herself. Tears filled her eyes as she realized how her stubbornness nearly cost her daughter a lifetime of happiness. The next morning, she picked up the letter she had written months ago and finally handed it to Monique. Monique opened the folded paper while sitting beside Christopher. Her voice shook as she read aloud. "Daughter, I know I've been hard on you. I only wanted the best, but maybe I hurt you in the process. I'm proud of you. I love you." Monique pressed the letter to her chest, sobbing. Christopher wrapped his arm around her, and even his eyes watered. "It's a start," he whispered. A year later, Monique and Christopher decided to try again. But this time, the wedding was small, intimate, and entirely on their terms. There was no grand ballroom, no extravagant guest list. Instead, it was held in a small garden with only close family and friends. Patricia sat in the front row, dressed in a lavender suit, her eyes glistening with tears. When Christopher and Monique exchanged vows, Patricia finally stood, clapping with the others, her heart swelling with both regret and pride. She whispered, "This time, I let love lead." After the ceremony, as the couple danced under the soft glow of string lights, Patricia walked up to them. She touched Christopher's shoulder and said, "Son, I was wrong. I see now that stubbornness can destroy, but love builds. Thank you for not giving up on my daughter. And thank you for not giving up on me." Christopher nodded respectfully. "We're family now, Ms. Patricia, and I'll always take care of Monique." Patricia hugged them both, something she had never done before. That night, as laughter and music filled the air, Monique realized they hadn't just survived Patricia's stubbornness, they had turned pain into a bridge for healing. The wedding that never was had transformed into the wedding that was meant to be. And in that moment, their love stood stronger than pride, stronger than control, stronger than anything that had once tried to tear them apart.